They were speed. They were success. They were the ultimate power couple of the racing world. But one quiet morning in 1988, their story came to a violent end. What began as a brutal double murder soon revealed something darker. A rivalry fueled by greed, betrayal, and revenge. This week on Two Crime Newsies, we dive into the story of Mickey and Trudy Thompson. Hi everyone, I'm Jen. Thanks so much for being with us for another week of Two Crime Newsies.
Hi Jen. Hi everyone, I'm Tina.
Hi my friend. Tina and I are over here being like coffee buzzed. I'm on my second cup and it's needed today.
You're on your second cup?
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I'm 50% through my first cup.
Oh, see, I have to have a cup of coffee in the morning before anybody even talks to me. I have 2 kids, and both of my kids know that they don't mess with mama until after at least 2 cups of coffee.
Nice. You trained them. What do they do? Just walk around and ignore you?
I mean, they'll talk to me and be like, can we have our cereal? And I'll be like, sure, I'll get you your cereal. And so I'll bring them their cereal, but then it's coffee time.
Do they know when it's okay to talk to you? Like, do they look at your coffee cup, or do they just see a look on your face?
Apparently, I think I become nicer and don't look so angry. I feel like I sometimes look like that meme of a sleeping bear that's just woken up and super disheveled. That's me every morning.
I can relate.
Well, we want to say thank you while we're talking about coffee for all those who have contributed to our coffee fund. If you don't know what we're talking about, we have a donation site set up at buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies. And there people have been contributing $1, $5, $10, any amount to our coffee fund because it keeps our podcast going.
It fuels our podcast.
I love it. So our fund is at buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies.
Or you can go to twocrimenewsies.com and there is a link at the top of our homepage.
All right, let's get into the show. This week we're talking about the show Homicide Los Angeles, the race car killer. It's season 2, episode 2 on Netflix.
Jen, you've introduced me to a brand new show I've never seen. I've never even heard of Homicide Los Angeles before. How do you find these hidden gems?
I look at the front picture, and if the picture does not catch my attention, I move on.
Like the thumbnail?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's just like books for me. If it's not a good book cover, the likelihood of me picking it up is very slim.
Now that you say that, I do treat these episodes like I read books, and I do something different. So I don't judge it by its cover. But I do pick it up and I read the first page or 2. And if I'm hooked by the first page or 2, I'm buying the book. I don't care what the cover looks like. And that's what I do with these shows. If I watch it for the first minute or 2 and I'm not in, I turn it off.
Hey, I had you with my book. So for all those who don't know, I am currently writing a book. It's kind of a spicy book, which is not normally in Tina's wheelhouse. But I had her read it, and she read the first chapter, and she liked it and was hooked.
Hold on. I liked the storyline.
Well, nothing spicy happened in the first chapter.
That was great that nothing spicy happened in the first line. And I was in the story. And then all of a sudden, the spiciness entered. And what happened to the story? I was like, hey, what happened to so-and-so? I haven't heard from them in like 20 pages. It's been 20 pages of spiciness. Where'd they go?
All right, so before we get into the show, I want to give a little listener warning because some of the things we're going to be talking about are pretty graphic.
Right. It wasn't super bad because I was able to watch it and I was good.
Yeah.
So, and I'm kind of a weenie about that stuff. So.
On a Tina scale, I'd say gore-wise, it's probably a 3.
I'd say it's like a 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. I was okay.
Good,
But
good.
it was more, the whole story, I think, was more disturbing to me than anything.
Yes. All right. Are you ready to get into it, my friend?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's do it. So the show opens with a statement on the screen that says the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department is the largest sheriff's department in the country, serving the most populated county in the nation, which I didn't know, but totally makes sense because it's LA.
Yes.
So they investigate the most brutal and complicated murders. That's the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. And these are their stories. And that had me hooked. I was like, I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah, I agree. It was a good open.
Okay, so it's March 16th, 1988. Picture it, Los Angeles. Highways are the life of the city. The 5 stretches from the northernmost part of the county and goes straight through the heart of the city. Overpasses, on and off ramps galore. This is LA. And if you've ever been to the City of Angels, you know that people there love their cars. Today and back in the 80s too. Back then, street racing was its own culture, we hear. From drag racing to motocross and even off-road, car culture is in the blood in Los Angeles.
This is interesting, Jen, because I wonder where and when they race on the streets. I've only been to Los Angeles once, and I vividly remember sitting in traffic for hours.
I was on the 5 coming through the mountains.
Oh my gosh, you sound like such an LA person. I was on the 5.
And I was on my way down to San Diego. So I was in the Grapevine and I sat in traffic from the Grapevine through the city all the way to Anaheim. I was in traffic. It took me 12 hours to make the drive to San Diego.
That's like from one end of Texas to the other.
That's basically, It was so long. And the entire time, I'll never forget, I didn't want to get off the 5 because I was like, I'm never going to get back on. It's going to take even longer. And so I had to go to the bathroom the entire time. And by the time I got to San Diego, I felt like my bladder was going to burst.
You held it?
I sure did.
Wow.
I know. Commitment.
So how is it possible to race anywhere when you can only move at 5 miles an hour?
So that's on the highway, though. There's lots of little streets throughout LA. And LA is massive. I mean, you're talking millions of people.
Also, have you seen LA car chases?
No.
I've seen them on TV every now and then.
Bad boys, bad boys.
Maybe
What you
I've seen it
gonna
on
do?
Bad Boys.
I used to love that show.
It's a good show.
Oh, so good. Okay, you ready?
Sure.
This takes us to March 16th, 1988, when a man by the name of Danny Thompson got a call at his office saying something was going on in Bradbury, a sleepy little suburb of Los Angeles. He says he hopped in his car and headed to car racing legend Mickey Thompson's house.
Danny says when he got to the neighborhood, he was stopped by a police officer who told him they weren't letting any traffic through. And the officer asked who he was. Danny says he tells the officer he's Mickey Thompson's son. And Danny tells the camera he could tell at that moment that something was wrong just by the officer's reaction, by the look on his face.
Before we get into Mickey Thompson, I want to set the scene for you a little bit because you know I love doing this. So let's talk about Bradbury, California. It's located in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains right below Angeles National Mountains. It's a beautiful small town. I've actually driven through it before. Much of the town consists of gated communities and larger properties, which are zoned for horses and horse ranches. It's a pretty affluent community, and there's a number of famous people who live here, including a Saudi Arabian prince, former Major League Baseball players, a Chinese automotive tycoon, and even racing legend Mickey Thompson. Now let's talk a little bit about Mickey Thompson.
Jen, we learned that Mickey Thompson is a legend in the racing world. But he not only raced cars, he built cars.
That's sweet.
If you're familiar with slingshot cars, do you know what those are? Have you seen those?
Sounds really cool.
Yeah, slingshots. They, I've seen them even around where we live. They look like life-sized Hot Wheels.
That's cool.
Can you imagine that?
That's pretty
So
cool.
they don't have a top. They have these big wheels that you sit real low in the car. It looks like a life-size Hot Wheel. That's how I can describe
really
it.
cool.
Yeah, it's really cool looking. Mickey Thompson, Jen, is the one who designed and built the first slingshot in 1954.
That's so cool.
And they're still here.
That's awesome.
Danny says his father, Mickey, held over 370 records at one point, with one of the most well-known records being the first American to go over 400 miles an hour, hitting a top speed of 406.6 miles per hour.
Holy smokes. 406 miles per hour. That's fast. I mentioned it before on one of the episodes that I'm super into Formula One. Formula One cars can only reach speeds of about 233 miles per hour on long straights. This is way more. Holy moly.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those races, and it does look that they're going super fast.
It is. I'm just going to put this little plug in there. Lewis Hamilton, you need Ferrari to get you into this kind of a car that Mickey Thompson was driving back in the day, because then I think we could get back onto pole positions, buddy.
Okay, let's go back to... okay, that's great.
Hey, I'm a Lewis fan, and I need him to get back on those podiums.
Sure, go Lewis. I want to go back to the speed because I can't get over this. Have you ever been to Austin, Jen?
Austin, Texas?
Yes.
I have.
There is a toll road around Austin with a speed limit of 85 miles per hour, and that to me is fast. I've driven on that toll road. It is fast. I cannot comprehend going 400 miles per hour in a car.
But you're not zooming in and out of traffic. Like, he's doing this in, like, dry lake beds.
Still, it's so fast. And this toll road is mostly empty. So you're going 85 miles per hour on a mostly empty toll road. You've got all the room, but it still feels illegal. And I want to compare this speed to an airplane. I want to wrap our minds around how fast this is. According to Google AI, the takeoff speed for a commercial jet is around 150 to 180 miles per hour. Think about how fast you're going when you're sitting in that airplane and it's taking off. Doesn't it feel like it's going 80,000 miles per hour?
I mean, you're getting pushed back in your seat a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it feels scary. A commercial plane's cruising speed, according to Google AI, is around 500 to 600 miles per hour, which is not far off from Mickey's 400 mile per hour record. And really, all of this just blows my mind.
That's kind of, yeah, when they said it on the show, 406 miles per hour, obviously I knew that was fast because I know how fast like a Formula One car goes, and when they are on track, they zoom by. But that kind of puts it in perspective, though. Like, you're going close to the speeds of an airplane. Ooh. Okay, well, we learned that going fast was not the only thing that Mickey Thompson liked to do.
Right. Okay, Jen. So you mentioned you enjoy watching racing.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, in this show, we learned that Mickey was also a promoter. And one of the things he promoted was his invention of indoor stadium racing. There you go.
Well, Formula One's outside.
Okay. It's still in a state. Well, I guess it's in a track.
It is in a track, yeah.
Okay, when I think of indoor stadium racing, in my mind, I think of monster trucks.
Yeah, same.
And we see video in the show of these types of events, and the vehicles aren't monster-sized, but they do have a similar feel to a monster truck show with the dirt tracks and the giant tires. And Danny tells us in the show that he was one of the drivers for this type of racing, and he remembers stadiums being packed with fans. And we also learned that Mickey's wife, Trudy, was also a promoter for these events.
It's like a family business.
Yes.
We hear from Mickey's wife, Trudy, in a news report where she says she likes to be close to Mickey, so she likes doing what he's doing, so she can be around him all the time. She also says that she likes to go fast. Speed is really in this Thompson family blood.
I do not like to go fast.
I love to go fast. I am a total like adrenaline junkie when it comes to like cars. Like, put me in a fast car. It's so great.
I love how we're so different.
If you're doing the point A to point B racing, like, yeah, I'm all for it.
No,
Yeah.
I get nervous.
And I also want to say that throughout this show, we hear from so many people who knew the couple who say that these two were madly in love. They wanted to spend every minute of every day together. They loved each other deeply and would do anything for one another. So let's get back to March 16th, 1988. The show flashes to a news clip where the anchor is saying that race car driver Mickey Thompson and his wife Trudy were murdered in the driveway of their posh suburb neighborhood. We hear that each were shot several times in the torso. While watching the video footage of their bodies being hauled away from the scene on a stretcher, covered by a white sheet, we hear that Mickey Thompson was beloved by everyone. And he had no enemies. So the question is, who could have done this to them? And the even bigger question, why? So let's get into it, Tina. It's 7 a.m. and Ray Verdugo, a homicide detective in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, says he got a call saying that Mickey and Trudy had been shot in the front of their house. And he says he was told to head to the house. Senior criminalist Liz Devine, I love that name, by the way.
That's a great name.
Liz Devine. Senior criminalist Liz Devine also headed towards the upscale gated community in Bradbury.
The footage of this place, Jen, is dreamy. It looks like the English countryside.
It's gorgeous.
And it's very exclusive. Ronald Bowers, a retired prosecutor from the LA County District Attorney's Office, says his daughter was taking horse riding lessons in Bradbury Estates, and every time he would go there, it was a chore to get in. He would have to show his ID and also show the gate guard that he had permission to be there from the stable owner. So this is not a neighborhood where an outsider, meaning someone who doesn't live there, would be able to come and go as they please.
The house itself sits amongst lush green hills with trees. A long, wide driveway stretches down a hill from the brown two-story house all the way to the street. In pictures, we can see a blurred image of Trudy lying at the very end of the sloped driveway, at the spot where the street connects to the driveway. She had been shot in the head. Meanwhile, Mickey is found laying up the driveway closer to the garage, and we hear that Mickey had been shot twice, once in the body and once in the head. And on the show, we hear from a neighbor who lived behind the couple, who says all of a sudden there was a shot, and then 10 or 15 seconds of silence, and then he says, I heard Mickey Thompson yelling, "Don't hurt my wife, don't hurt my wife." And the next thing we hear is a series of shots and then just silence. I swear, this is chilling to hear that. The neighbor didn't even have time to really register in that moment what he was hearing. We hear that the neighbor named Dr. Johnson told police he saw two African-American men on bicycles flee the scene of the shooting. They left the property and rode down the street past his house on 10-speed bikes.
Bowers, the retired prosecutor, says Mickey Thompson followed a certain routine every day. He says the couple would leave home at 6 a.m. and drive to their office at Anaheim Stadium. He says they always left in a van and that Trudy was usually the driver.
I'm always the driver in my family, too.
Are you?
I am. Oh. For me, it's a control thing, though. I like to be in control of the car.
No, ma'am. When my husband's around, I am happy to relinquish control all to him. Drive me anywhere I want to go, sir. I want to be the passenger princess.
I was going to say that's very passenger princess vibes of you there, Tina.
Also, it doesn't look like this is a robbery because when police checked the van, they found a lot of jewelry, expensive jewelry, in plain sight. We also hear Mickey's wallet wasn't stolen, and in fact, he still had a ton of money in it. Several thousands of dollars, they say.
Jewelry and cash, those are motives for robbery right there, but they were all still there.
Yep.
Whew. Obviously, if the motive had been robbery, cash and jewelry would be some of the first things that were taken. So clearly robbery, as we mentioned, was not a motive. Something else that's suspicious we hear, that if it's a robbery, the man is always killed first. But that wasn't the case. Investigators say that the neighbor heard Mickey yelling out for Trudy, meaning Trudy had been shot first. It doesn't make any sense. Why not go after the big guy first if it was a robbery? So that makes everyone wonder, why were these two targeted?
The show tells us more about what the scene looked that day, and we find out that some of Trudy's nails were broken, and the glass on the driver's side of the van is shattered on the ground. Police suspect that Trudy was driving, and she was shot at through the van window, and they think that she may have been running away when she was killed.
Investigator Liz Devine says she documented shoe prints in the mud along the driveway. She found a stun gun on the ground by Mickey and some cartridge casing from a gun next to the garage door. Liz Devine also found some orange peels near an orange tree on the property, not far from Mickey. That instantly raised the question in my head. Did the killer lie in wait and decide to munch on some oranges while waiting for Mickey and Trudy?
You know, that's a good question. And also, they never mentioned if those oranges were looked at for any kind of DNA. Although I don't know how well that would keep either, you know?
Yeah.
Because oranges decompose, peels decompose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the story. From all of these clues, investigators think the killers were in front of the garage waiting for the couple. They don't know if the stun gun was used on Mickey or used on Trudy, but they do think it was used as some way to gain control of the couple. They also say all of these clues point to a hit because killing Trudy first would cause the most pain for Mickey to have to see it.
Tina, at this point, the police don't have very much to go on. Dr. Johnson, who lives next door, says he saw two black men flee the scene on bikes, but that's it.
And he thinks the two men are between 20 and 30 years old. We also find out a woman who was driving nearby reported seeing two people fitting this description. She remembered almost hitting them because she says they were riding so fast and crossed the street in front of her car. They pretty much came out of nowhere, she said. And when she called authorities to report what she saw, officers decided to have her work with a sketch artist to describe the men. And then officers start handing out flyers of the sketches to drivers around the area in hopes that someone had seen these two at that time.
So let me just say, those artists rendering those sketches of the suspects, those are some really good detailed sketches. One of the guys is wearing a hoodie, so we can't see his hair, and the other guy has a mustache and some bushy eyebrows. And we see a flyer on the screen at this point where it shows their sketchers, and the flyer says, "Wanted for murder, $1 million reward."
Danny Thompson says the media at this point was out of control. They were swarming the area around the house. Reporting on the case was constant. Helicopters were hovering over the home, and you couldn't escape images of the crime scene all over the news.
At this point, investigators need to know as much as they can find out about the victims, so they get together with relatives and loved ones of Mickey and Trudy.
The family is obviously devastated. As Danny Thompson says, they were all in sort of a daze, grieving. Danny says he told investigators the killers had to have planned this carefully because Mickey and Trudy's home wasn't easily accessible.
It's in a gated community.
That's right. Detective Verdugo says when he spoke with the family, he learned they suspected a man named Mike Goodwin to be involved. We also learned Mickey and Mike were running competing businesses, with Mickey running what's called indoor Baja-style car racing, and Mike running a similar event, but with motorcycles. And then we learn at some point, these two decided to put their efforts together and team up.
It totally makes sense to bring the car racing and motorcycle type races together. If you think about it, both Mickey and Mike Goodwin would benefit financially from this partnership.
But we hear from Danny Thompson that Mike Goodwin wasn't keeping his end of the deal because he wasn't paying the bills he was supposed to be paying, and thus was destroying any relationships that they had with stadiums that were booking these racing events.
At this point, Mickey terminated the partnership with Mike Goodwin, and that's when the legal battle began between the two guys. We hear the court favored Mickey in all the cases, and Goodwin responded by moving money around to hide it and ended up claiming bankruptcy, according to the show. Family members told the police that Goodwin had called the couple shortly before their death and had threatened them.
Danny Thompson says before his dad was killed, his dad told him that Goodwin was out of control.
So investigators go to find Goodwin at his attorney's office, and Goodwin refused to talk. Goodwin told his attorney that he was at the gym working out that morning at 6 a.m. and that people had seen him and had spoken to him there, so he clearly had an alibi. And then the strangest thing happens. We hear that Goodwin and his wife ended up leaving the country on a boat and didn't come back. To me, that spells red flag.
I agree. And investigators only found this out when they called up Goodwin's attorney, and the attorney informed them that the couple had bought the boat and left the country.
Whoa.
And according to an article in LAtimes.com, the couple left by boat to the Caribbean just 2 weeks after the murders. That's an interesting way to leave the country, Jen.
Well, especially going from California to the Caribbean. Like, you have to get to the Gulf of Mexico at some point in time. Like, you're going from California.
It's a long way.
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot of people leaving by boat when they're trying to escape. Usually it's by plane.
Agreed. So at this point, the case goes cold. Nothing new happens until 1994, when the LA County Cold Case Unit took over the case. That's when homicide detective Mark Lilienfeld and his partner start looking into Mickey and Trudy's death. And at this point, all signs still point to Mike Goodwin and his bizarre disappearance on the boat. According to the LA County prosecutor Ronald Bowers, the couple sold their house and took all their assets and funneled them into a Caribbean bank. The boat, we find out, was also obtained through fraud. Talk about some shady stuff. And we hear in 1993, Mike Goodwin was charged with fraud, ended up coming back to the United States, and ended up being convicted of fraud in October 1995. And he was sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison. And shocker, Goodwin still refused to talk to the police. So investigators went back out to Bradbury to talk to more witnesses again.
Remember Dr. Johnson, the neighbor who reported hearing the gunshots?
Sure do.
He tells investigators that his daughter has a friend named Allison, who not only lived across the street from Mickey Thompson, but also saw the murders happen.
Let's go talk to Allison.
We learn that Allison was only 15 years old at the time of the murders, and because of the trauma she endured from seeing them happen, her parents wanted to keep her out of the spotlight, which is why she had never talked to police before.
Totally understandable.
Right. But now, years later, she's a grown adult, and detectives are able to finally talk to her. Allison tells detectives she remembers getting ready for school that day when she heard someone screaming. She says she looked out the window and she saw Trudy on her knees crawling down the driveway. She also remembers seeing Mickey kneeling down with his hands in the air and saying, "Please don't kill my wife." Then she sees Trudy get shot in the head, and the same person that shot Trudy, she sees him walk up to where Mickey is, and she sees him shoot and kill Mickey.
Ugh.
Allison describes the killers and gives the same description of the two men that witnesses first described, seen leaving the area on 10-speed bicycles.
Still, though, at this point, there's not enough evidence against Goodwin to charge him with the crime. Fast forward to the fall of 1996, and Goodwin is paroled from federal prison. We hear that he flew out to the Orange County Airport, and that's when Detective Lilienfeld got very crafty. I like this guy. He seems like a straight shooter to me.
Yeah, he was fun to listen to tell the story.
We hear he had Goodwin's luggage end up mysteriously making the flight but getting lost at the airport. Wink, wink. Clever guy right there, if you ask me. Lilienfeld ended up pretending like he was also a passenger on the flight whose luggage too went missing.
Lilienfeld says he turned on a tape recorder to log Goodwin's voice. So him and Goodwin are in the same space with Lilienfeld pretending he also lost his luggage. His plan is to eventually wiretap Goodwin's phone, and he wants to make sure he knows what Goodwin's voice sounds like. He says he's with Goodwin for about 40 minutes at the airport, pretending to wait for his lost luggage and striking up conversation. Lilienfeld says Goodwin told lie after lie after lie about stuff that no one would even need to lie about, he says.
Lilienfeld says it best in my opinion. He says Goodwin was full of bullshit and his whole life was a lie. And what he did next was genius in my opinion. He took the story of Mickey and Trudy to America's Most Wanted in hopes of generating some tips that would lead to some actual hard evidence. One of the callers was the one that would eventually help crack this case. A scorned lover of Mike Goodwin called in and started talking.
This woman says she was watching a crime show about the Thompson murders, and that's when she says Goodwin told her he was the one who set up those murders.
We hear at the time of the murders, Mike Goodwin was married, but that marriage eventually ended, and his ex-wife, Diana Goodwin, left California and moved to Virginia Beach, Virginia. We hear that Los Angeles County officials were granted access to wiretap her home phone and her business phone in Virginia. And we also hear that investigators ended up calling Diana Goodwin herself and told her that they were investigating her ex-husband. We hear that she basically said some not kind words to investigator Lilienfeld, but he didn't care.
Lilienfeld says they eventually got what they were looking for. They heard her on a call tell someone that Goodwin told her that he was responsible for the Thompson murders. This is now the second person who's saying this.
We also hear that America's Most Wanted generated a call from an accountant who had a client who claimed seeing some suspicious activity in Bradbury 4 days before the murders.
The guy who saw the suspicious activity is named Ron Stevens, and Lilienfeld tells us about the conversation with Stevens. Stevens tells him that he didn't know Mickey, but he did live 3 blocks away from his house. He says he remembers coming home one day and his wife told him there was a strange car down the street with 2 men who were looking through binoculars. At the time, Stevens says that his wife's worry was that these 2 men were maybe up to something bad, like trying to kidnap a kid because there was an elementary school not far away. Stevens then says he walked up to the car and could see a white man in the driver's seat and a black man in the passenger seat. But before he could reach the car, the driver stepped on the gas and the car went speeding away. We find out that Stevens did report the incident to the sheriff's department when it happened, but the sheriff's department never sent anyone to follow up.
He describes the driver we hear to be Michael Goodwin to a T. My question is, you think Goodman would actually be caught surveilling the area before the murder? At this point, police wanted to put Goodwin in a lineup and see if the witness could in fact pick him out of that lineup. But there was a problem. There always seems to be a problem. Goodwin wasn't in police custody, and they couldn't just go out and pick him up for no reason.
But they can arrest him on what's called a Ramey warrant. Lilienfeld describes it as a probable cause arrest warrant. The way it works is they take the warrant to a judge, and he signs it without the prosecutor being involved. So they arrest Goodwin, and we see video of a reporter talking to him on camera. The reporter says to Goodwin, "You were arrested because you refused to volunteer for the lineup. Wouldn't it have been easier in hindsight to simply volunteer rather than go through this?" Goodwin responds by saying, "No, I think we have to challenge government misconduct whenever we can." He goes on to say to the reporter, "Let me ask you this. If I committed otherwise a perfect crime, would I have been so stupid to go to the scene of the crime?"
He's asking if people think he would be so dumb to commit the crime and then get caught going to the crime scene. I'll let you be the judge of that.
Yeah, because, Jen, we hear all the time that these criminals always return to the crime scene.
Yeah, because they want to see what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just like the Koberger thing. We've talked about it before, where he committed the crime and then the next morning his cell phone was picked up again. Cell phone signal was again picked up in that area.
Not only after the crime, but before the crime.
Yep.
So he was there before the crime and there after the crime.
Yep.
And so it's not out of anyone's
wheelhouse.
Thank you. To have been there before the crime and after the crime and any time in between.
Yep. Okay, so back at the jail, Goodwin is put in the lineup, and both Stevens and his wife pick him out as the guy they saw outside of their house sitting with an African-American man 4 days before the murders. Goodwin was immediately charged with murder and put behind bars. All right, so let's get to the trial. It started on November 6, 2006. 18 years have gone by. 18. That's a long time since the Thompsons were killed in their Bradbury driveway.
In the prosecutor's opening arguments, they say Goodwin had bad intentions from the start. They say he had a motive, that he was angry with Mickey, had threatened him before the murders, and they believe he hired people to kill Mickey and his wife. One of Thompson's family members testified to hearing Goodwin make the threats. And in the prosecution's closing arguments, they point to the fact that the way Mickey was found, they believe he was facing Trudy and saw her being shot. And they say No other person other than Goodwin would want Mickey to suffer in that way. The defense claims Goodwin didn't have anything to do with the murders because he was at the gym when they happened. And also, Jen, the killers were never caught. And the evidence in this case was circumstantial. There was no physical evidence putting Goodwin at the crime scene.
So that takes us to January 4th of 2007, 2 months after the trial began. The jury came back after about 6 days of deliberations. And the verdict? They found Michael Goodwin guilty of 2 counts of murder and special circumstances. And he was sentenced to 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. But despite the guilty verdict, the 2 men who actually committed the crime, as Tina stated, were never caught. All these years later, we still don't know who they are. And if you know anything about the crime or have heard anything about who these 2 may be, I'll put the LA County Sheriff's Department number in our show notes. You never know. You may have the tiny little piece of information that could lead to their capture. But the story of Thompson's life does not end there. That takes us to August 12th of 2008. Take it away, Tina.
Danny says there was one thing that his dad, Mickey, didn't get to do, and that's get the land speed record. Danny says his dad told him in 1987 that he wanted him to get it, and they began preparing Danny for it. But when Mickey was killed, Danny didn't pursue it for 22 years. He says one day he decided that he didn't want to be left wondering if he could reach 450 miles per hour in a race car.
450 miles an hour.
So on August 12th, 2018, Danny went for it.
Let's go, Danny.
He reached 459 miles an hour. And Danny says he finished his dad's mission and completed his own that day.
That's pretty awesome. That's really cool. Tina, what an episode. As we mentioned before, the 2 people who actually committed the shootings were never caught, and I'll put that information in our show notes. So if you know anything, if you've heard anything, call the LA County Sheriff's Department so the family can get justice.
I think this was such an interesting story, one that I had never heard before, and I definitely think we should cover more of these shows.
I really liked it. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Homicide Los Angeles. Go check it out.
I was about to say, go check it out for yourself. It's on Netflix. If you enjoyed this week's episode, share it with a friend. Also, we would love to know what you're thinking about this episode. Leave us a comment, twocrimenewsies.com. You can send us an email. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We're at Two Crime Newsies. And we also want to hear if you have any episodes that you suggest.
Introduce us to some new shows. And also, leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. We really appreciate it.
I love it. All right, my friend, you ready to close it out?
Yep.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us for another week of Two Crime Newsies, and we will talk to you guys again next week. Bye.